Can I get a take 2 test, please? Part 2 test.
Testing. This is part 2 coming in.
Part 2, you are clear for landing.
Well, I was thinking more of a takeoff.
You are clear for takeoff as well, whatever you would prefer. Another day, another story.
Another day, another dollar. How are you, Trevor?
I'm doing so great. You know what I can't wait for?
What's that?
I can't wait for future us to listen to these podcasts and remember these stories. It's a good way to, it's like our, what do you call it? Journaling?
Well, yeah.
Journal entry of December 19th.
2021.
Mark it down.
It is cool because, and you know what? Just random spiel while we're on it.
Shoot the shit a little bit.
Let's do it. I think that journaling is very necessary for personal health and for your future self and for your future generations, future friends, future family, all that kind of stuff. I think it's very valuable. So
getting deep on us. Yeah,
I guess. I don't know. Like you talk about it though too with your work. It's a lot of journaling in a way with videoing things. I think that is a form, right? This podcast is kind of a form. You can actually write down in a journal. You can like scrapbook. There's just so many things, so many different ways. And I feel like that is another thing that I learned this year.
Wow.
Thanks for bringing it up.
You're welcome. I'm glad you could teach me.
I'm not teaching. I'm just, you do it too. You journal.
Well, I hope you guys all journal too. Journal in your own way.
Like I said,
songwriting. I that's a way that I wish I could journal. Songwriting.
I know. Be able to just play.
Speaking of a song, can I tell you a song that I wrote this summer?
Well, absolutely you can.
Okay, let's see. So this was on a trip that we took to Idaho. There was so much that happened during this trip. This is the one where it was me, Peirce, Colin, our friend, Alex, his cousin, and Alex's friend Carter. That's who it was. So we were sitting under some trees while it was raining. We were kind of like just sitting there under the rain. And it was actually so peaceful. The sound of the rain and then just Peirce and I talking about life.
Because everybody else was in their tents, just kind of sleeping,
hanging out, getting out of the rain. And we were just like, we're not tired. We're ready to go. But we didn't want to get soaked because we were backpacking. So we were just kind of hanging out, dicking around. And if any of you know me, mainly Peirce, he knows that I will think of the worst outcomes in any situation.
All the time. He's like,
every situation.
Yeah, this could go terribly wrong right now. I'm like, dude, look, I'm watching the sunset right now. Can you just leave me in peace with that nonsense?
Yeah, but watch your footing because you're going to fall and die.
Yeah, just like random. And sometimes it's nice. Sometimes
it's valid.
It is good.
It's very valid most of the time, but it's also like unnecessary.
It's like, Trevor, relax.
Like yesterday, I was chilling at home, and for some reason, I had this weird feeling that someone had like gone in our window, and I was like, no way, no one's gonna kill me. I've been watching some Criminal Minds, You and Dexter, so I've been watching some serial killer type stuff.
Paranoid over here.
I'm very paranoid. So I grabbed a knife out of the kitchen and I walked our whole apartment because I was home alone. And then it's kind of like one of those things where I just kind of chuckled at myself because I was like, this isn't gonna actually happen probably, but if it did, I was ready.
You were.
Yeah, and he was gonna be surprised. He was like,
Spidey senses.
My criminal senses were tingling. I should be an FBI agent.
Yeah. An investigator?
Yeah. Good luck, Trevor.
Have fun.
Maybe that will be another excursion I'll have in a couple years. Anyways, so while we were under these trees with the rain, what I thought of was, okay, well, I had a valid point to think so. I was sitting on this tree and I was looking at this other tree and you see like claw marks and broken branches all the way up this tree. And I'm like looking at this thing like, bro, that's a bear for sure climbing up this tree. And I started thinking about it and I'm like checking all these trees up around us, making sure it's not just like stalking us from above. And then I just go into this freestyle mode. I don't even remember what music we were listening to.
I don't either.
I don't remember. This is what I wrote down. A lot of this is vulgar. Maybe I shouldn't talk about this.
You're like, I want to share this. Now you're the first time you're looking at it.
This is the first time I've ever looked at it.
Go for it. Let's hear it.
Oh my gosh. We'll see what I can make up on the fly because it's not the best to say on the air. Sitting here under a tree, laying in some weeds, bear gonna climb down and eat me. Mama Nature most definitely wants to F me up. Mama Nature don't mess around.
Encore.
Thank you.
Wow.
That is called a bear in a tree.
Bear in a tree, huh? You heard it here first.
I actually thought about a sticker that I wanted to make from it.
Okay.
I don't know how this really relates at all, but this is kind of just the 3 B's. Bears, beers, boobies.
Well,
and it was going to be a bear peeking through the bushes looking at some hiker girl.
I love it.
Thanks.
I think it's great. I think it would sell.
I think it would sell too.
Bears,
beers, boobies. Oh yeah, and he's drinking a beer. That's
he's
what
holding
it was.
the beer in one hand.
Looking through
the
it's like a blind. Like the bush is like a blind. He's just like boop,
beep.
And then it's just like this female hiker, you know.
Cool.
Thanks, man. It was one of my brightest moments I think I've had in nature.
Well, that's good.
Super awesome. I loved it.
Inspiring. It's going to inspire a lot.
I hope so. So yeah, basically I'm just very paranoid, especially when it comes to the outdoors, but with a valid reason, I would say. We've had some moments in this summer where we've realized that Mama Nature don't mess around.
It's very true. You're right. I mean, I remember sitting there in the rain, and as you were freaking out, he wasn't.
What was I freaking out about?
The whole bear thing.
Oh,
he wasn't freaking out. He was like, dude, we definitely could. He's like, I can't. There's a bear gonna get me. He like kept looking around.
I was like, I'm not saying it's gonna happen, but if it does, we're done for.
And I'm just like laying there on this tree, just like watching the rain.
You're like, yeah. I'm just trying to enjoy this moment of beauty, and I was just thinking about being killed.
And then we saw some deer though that were close by. I mean, obviously we were in nature, so a bear could have came. You're right.
That's true.
It is. It's good to be, and it's good. And I think again that goes back to like accountability. It is good to know and be aware of your circumstances.
Right.
It's not good to be a complete idiot.
Right. Like for instance, not be super paranoid, but be prepared. Like we took all of our food and we hung it up in a tree just in case.
Right.
So there was things that we did to like
avoid.
Avoid the possibility. At least like
just be as prepared
decreasing
as you can,
the chances of it.
Boy Scout motto: always be prepared. Anyways, that was a cool trip, honestly, though. Just nature animals. That was the same trip that we've talked about before where we listened to Mama. I think the rain, and we were right by a lake, beautiful, and there's deer. We saw bald eagles fishing the next morning. That was so cool, by the way. It was right before the cool like drone shot of skipping the rock, and there was just some eagles trying to catch fish. None of them succeeded. Neither of them succeeded. Yeah, it was really unfortunate, but it was fun watching them dive into the water.
I think we talked about that the first or second episode, like listening.
Mm-hmm.
It was episode 2, Noises of the World or something. Taking time to listen. Yeah, I feel like that was a really pivotal moment of our summer and our year.
It was like, oh my gosh, there's so much more to the outdoors than even what we've explored, we've done.
Unfortunately, it was kind of towards the end of the summer. So that was like our first and last backpacking trip of the year, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But it makes us want to go back to the Uintas and just do more backpacking stuff next summer.
That's like life though too, is I feel like, and again, going back to just humans, we just kind of compile more and more on the things that we like and stuff. So we did a lot of adventuring, a lot of like camping and stuff, but the trips are so different, and a lot of it was like out of the car camping, or like just good times. And I think that because of all these things that we've learned so much, and we know now more of the things we're going to want, and like we can actually handle a lot more. So I think it is cool knowing that where we're going to be in the future too, you know?
Like I think we've known that we liked backpacking, but from going to a bunch of car camping this summer and then having that trip, I think it made us realize that that's really what we want to do. And we want to get more into we've said it a lot, but like this Lewis and Clark feel, more adventure-y and more just kind of...
More just alone, you know?
Yeah. Because we only saw a few people up there. And like when it was raining, there was definitely like nobody up there.
Yeah, because not a lot of people were camping. Yeah,
right.
Like at all. At least we were by no one.
Yeah, it literally felt like we had the whole place to ourselves, like the whole night.
It was great. Again, going back to a different trip, we can hop over to the other Idaho trip we went on to in 4th of July.
Yes, and that has a lot of similarities to the trip we talked about in part 1 last episode about that we had a plan, but it changed a lot. Mm-hmm. It changed so much, just all over the place.
And this one was for different reasons, though.
Mama Nature, man.
Yeah.
She crazy.
It was like a trip. Wild. It was basically a trip again. So I think in June, this is kind of how it all unfolded. We had Trevor's birthday, right, in May.
Yeah, what day?
May 17th. 15th, 13th, 15th.
15th final answer?
17th is final answer. I'm going with
May
that.
13th. Yeah, so you can give me crap for not knowing your birthday, but
You're right. Here I am, the hypocrite.
it's true. March 19th, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
May 13th.
There we go. And
So
we'll probably
anyways,
forget it next time.
We probably will.
Anyways,
best
back
friends.
to yep. That's what I'm talking about.
So it started off with that, inspired another great trip in June, the Zion that turned into
St. George with Johan and Sonder
and
Sites.
Jack. So after having an awesome trip with people in June with Jack and Johan, we were like, let's just invite a bunch of fun, cool people. So we invited so many people from
Wow.
work, just basically like everyone that we knew or met that was cool. That because it was also a time period when we did just meet a bunch of people kind of at the same time. And so we just invited them all out and a lot of them came. How many different parties was it? It was like 3,
Four, 5 maybe.
Wow.
Probably a squad of like 12 people at least. But they were all from like different groups kind of. And they all met each other that trip.
It was such a fun
Goodness.
trip. That was another just wild trip. It really was. Cause yeah, we all like carpool. Everything was kind of last minute. Like, oh yeah, I'm going to come now. Like, let's go. And then we like just carpooled up there. I invited a guy that lived in Idaho, was in Utah or something, but I knew him from Texas. And then another guy that I
weird.
met at a dinner like a few weeks ago and then was at like a rave with him that same weekend. It was like the most random group of people.
It was. And then Alex, your
And
cousin,
then Alex,
and then his whole
he had a bunch of like
squad.
college homies. And yeah, so we met up in Idaho, camped right by a river. That's when we all met each other. We were just sitting by the fire, talking, kind of met each other. Then the next day we woke up.
And it started so peaceful and
So
so
great.
relaxing. We got up and we made this is so funny. I love talking about this story. Made some breakfast, some sausage, some eggs, like had a good.
Just tell the story fully in
Enjoyable.
your perspective.
One thing about this trip is that every single person had a different experience.
Exactly.
We did not have the same trip the whole time.
No one.
Goodness gracious. Yeah, I think I want you to go first.
Okay.
'cause
Well, like you said, we woke up, had a great start to our morning. We were right by a river. Again, it's 4th of July. It's nice and hot.
mhm.
Drew and Sam came in clutch. They brought some tubes. We got on the river.
Oh my gosh.
And it was a very like dead spot. So we were just chilling. Trevor's like taking some video. We're all hanging out.
I haven't even gotten in the water. It's been like 20 minutes and I'm just taking video
At least
of
20
everybody.
minutes. Yeah. And Trevor's still dry and everybody's like jumping in and having a good time. We like hooked up the tubes to stay in one spot. And then we were kind of like, okay, well, we're going to like float down a little bit because it was really nice and chill. And then Trevor's like, okay, well, I'm going to go put my stuff away basically.
Also, first of all, we had like tied the tubes up to
Yeah.
the side. And so we were all chilling there and talking, and I was flying my drone. I was getting footage. And then I told them to let go of, or to untie. So they started going down the river. And so I flew my drone and chased them for a while and then brought it back. And I was putting all my drone stuff away. And I was totally alone. I was all by myself. Everybody was downriver. So I didn't even know really what was going on.
It's true. And so we're hanging out. I hear that there's some rapids kind of up ahead at some point that you should get out. You can go through the first one. It's like a fun little thrill, but really quick after, you got to get out because it turns into like a little bit of a waterfall of sketchiness. So I think a couple people went in front of us, me, and then I went down and barely got out. Like the tube, I was with another person. We were both like holding on to the tube, trying to get out. It was kind of scary. We got out though, it was fine. And then we hear that one of our buddies went down the second thing and that he's like kind of trapped or something like down there where I'm like, oh snap. And a bunch of us are healthcare. And so they're like, I'm going to go cross the river and do it and like go help him, see if he's okay. And I'm like, okay, sounds like a great plan. Let's go. We cross, or I watch my buddy cross and he's like, hey, the current's kind of strong. You should probably go back a little further. Like, oh, I can do it. I'm fine.
He's so prideful.
I really am. And I get in. My hat falls off when I jump in. And so I'm like, oh, I'm like kind of messing around. I get my hat. And then I'm going and I realize it's really fast, but I make it to the other side. But I'm like just kind of touching the rock. I'm not even like grasping it for my life, you know? It's like, oh, there's no real edges. I'll just go to the next rock. And then I get sucked in. And I go under the first rapid. I honestly don't think it was that long. Like, I don't think I was under for that long. It was just so scary. It was so dark. You couldn't see anything. It feels like you can do anything, but you're still just stuck in the same spot. You're just there and you can't do anything about it. So I'm like sitting there, like, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die here. I'm gonna drown. This is awful. And then there's kind of this moment where you're like, no way am I going to die. I was reading the book, Can't Hurt Me. It's a David Goggins book. And at the time, that's what was in my mind. I was like, I will not die today. You can't hurt me, basically. And it's a great book. Recommend it. He has a lot of videos too. But
so shout out to David Goggins.
Shout out to David Goggins.
Saving his life.
What a bad mother, dude. He's awesome. I love that guy. Even I've never met him.
I love that guy. Like
he's
uncle.
done so much for me. Just kidding. But yeah, no, I finally got to the surface. I was dying of breath. I this time was not playing around that rock. I was scraping with my no nail hands. I got up there and I was just out of breath. I couldn't even talk. I just laid on my back and was just huffing and puffing. And the sun was beating down on the rocks. Thank God there was a little like cave thingy, almost like a rock that was hollow that blocked the sun enough. And I like walked my way over there and crawled in there and hid from the sun and the shade and just was focusing on breathing. It was hard.
So that was Peirce's adventure.
Right.
That was his version of the story. My version of the story is I haven't gotten in yet. I don't even think I really ate that much food because I was taking video. So I pack up all my stuff. I go to camp because camp is like 2 minutes away. So I get everything in the car, drive to camp. I put all my drone stuff away, all my camera stuff. And I'm kind of just like, just kind of like messing around. Not in any rush because you guys are just chilling on this lazy river, right?
Right.
I hang out at camp for a second. I grab some food, grab my water bottle and everything. And then I start going back down and I drive down and I'm like, okay, where do I find these